Welcome to Black Hour. This is a podcast where a group of friends sit around and have conversations that will elevate a black consciousness. Now, a first episode yet, we're shooting it on the 21st of March, which is a very important day in the history of South Africa. Some people remember it as the Sharpeville and the Langa Massacre. But as we all know, it's named now as a Human Rights Day. So we discussed the significance of that in our first podcast, in our first episode. Now, another segment in our first episode, we discussed the death of Goodwill Solitin. I think it's more of a history on the Zulu nation and kings in general, and what monarchs actually contribute to a black consciousness. So please sit back and enjoy.
By all means, we need to finally undermine the tribes zethu. They can never supersede the Africanity yethu. Yabo? Whether you are a Venda, you are a Zulu, you are an Igbo, you are from DRC, you are from Zimbabwe. I mean, the world doesn't care. You go to Europe and then they ask you about but you from Africa. South Africa, no, you are from Africa. Yabo? Yeah, I mean, abantu abazalelwe e-America, they are still called African Americans. Yabo? So, sibalekela ntoni laa nto. So, I think into zee-tribes neentoni mna andini. Apha elantini, ne, umzekelo ophilayo, apha epakeni ndiyothenga ichicken ngenye imini, ne. So kufika enye into ndithenga kwenye ichephe ekuthiwa ngu-Ishmael, ndithenga ichicken, yaseZimbabwe le chephe. So ndithenga, xa ndithenga sendiyigqithisile imali ukuthi igqinye intwana, ne. Like igqiba isichaza isiduko uba ndingumntu ontoni. Meaning that ndingumXhosa, ndiyindoda, yabo. So you should be. Ndiqonda umxela umntu orongo. I don't care. But you must put South Africans first. Basically, uchu put South Africans, man. I don't care. Yeah, so I think back to Kulela Dingane. So Dingane invited as settlers, and then they killed them. And then Galamini ala war, yeah, 16 December. Amabula retaliate. I revenge.
Okay.
Yeah, revenge. So then they fought. So I mean, Lamini is sadly, imenisela ngayo singoba impahla impahla zami yabo, sadly, and then you can't blame abantu.
Yeah. Kuthiwa imini yokuxolelana andazi uxolela abantu kanye.
And then but of course I was telling a lot of people but said it is. So ipoint enzamuyithethi uba uDingane killed ubrother wakhe because wayefuna power, yabo, with the help of Mabhulu, amjikela Mabhulu, and then he had to fight. Now there is another brother called Mpande. Right? Umpande naye ufuna ukwenza laa nto yenziwa nguDingane kuShaka. Laa nto yenziwa nguDingane kuShaka, but ufuna uyenza kuDingane. Ufuna ubulala uDingane because uyayazi ubulala kwakuDingane uzawubuya ophathayo. As a result, Umpande waya waweliswa, wayohlala naMabhulu, wakhempa naMabhulu, planning to kill uDingane. Yabo? Now, Mpande is a chief, flamboyant chief, onxiba amafele nendondo. La point bendiyithetha uba just because unxiba African attire doesn't mean by your people. No. Where was your flamboyant into onxibela amafele ezulu ntondoni ayihlalana wayekhungwe ngamabhulu plan ukuthi ubhukuqa uDingane because emveni kwalaa Dingane Day. So ultimately uMpande wayefumana uncedo from kuMabhulu wambhukuqa uDingane. Now we had uDingane, right, owancediswa ngabelungu to kill uShaka. Yabo? In fact, wenza promises kubelungu wena nobrother wakhe babulala uShaka. Now we have Mpande, right? Ofumane support from kuMabhulu. In fact, zange bamsupport nje bamnika amajoni plus ne-rifles to kill umkhosi kaDingane. Yi-king yamaZulu lesithetha ngayo, upcoming king yamaZulu. So Mpande was anointed as a king emveni koba kufe ulantuka kubulawe uDingane.
So bambulala uDingane.
Bambulala uDingane with the help of his settlers. Right? So yi-king list. I think the point is amulocate uba ingabi kings zethu zanamhlanje zii-African kings na ezimele thina okanye zii-conformists ezingekafumana nangoko indlela ezinqakama ngayo xa zingarecognize eParliament. Zingathukisi because nguloba nam ndifuna ungena.
So it's not about the people basically.
No. Yes, there were chiefs, kings, ezazifora abantu bazo.
Like you mentioned, Ushaka was fighting the right wars.
Ushaka fight the good war. Udingane ultimately fought the good war. Uyabo? Ngobona uba yabantu baziveze i-true colors zelantuka zamabhulu zingabaqonda, yabo. Umpande yena he sold out oko. He was one of the kings yasela out
from
the beginning umpande. Now umpande gives birth to kuCetshwayo.
Yeah, Cetshwayo.
uCetshwayo was one of the kings awalola abantu bakhe from the beginning. As a result, amabhulu ayethanda ubiza umpande amlando ngokucela athi makwenza uxola because umpande wayengavani nonyana kuCetshwayo because uCetshwayo akayenzi into enziwa ngutatakhe to conform emabhulweni. I think the leader yelantuka ngela xesha yangu-Theophilus Shepstein. That's why kuthiwa Port Shepstein. Because yangu-Theophilus, Shepstein, close to KZN. Yabo. They couldn't pronounce igama labo besithi ngusomtsewu. Bembuza ngusomtsewu, yabo. Nguye oyekhomiwe ilantuka oyerana la lantuka. Up until abadibana abiza ulantuka umpande bajonga xa lolunyana yakhe bakwenziwa kanjani. Kwenziwa ngale ndlela sifuna ngayo, le ndlela siyenza kuyo. Yabo. So instructions zisuka koShepstein to umpande and then umpande ngathi ba-outsource ii-powers. Yabo xa you still have powers, yabo ba-outsource ii-powers ba umpande wena abantu bafuna kwenzeke le nale. Yabo. Kanti bekufanele i-leader yabeZulu imela abantu bayo, bamela abantu babo, kuyadityana, kuyaliwa apho ngavanwa khona, period. So uCetshwayo was one of the kings awaye defiant, yabo, kuzo zonke iroutes. And then I understand utata kumpande sold out, yabo. Umpande wayenomnyana, I forgot igama lakhe, owayefana naye, owayefuza yena, ethanda laa nto kamabhulu. So ultimately they abducted bamsizana eKapa nase-England uCetshwayo, yabo. Yeah, umbamba kwabo, yabo, ngala moment bambambileyo umpande ulantuka uCetshwayo. Then ke ngoku bafumana i-chance yo-appointa ezi-bogus kings zabo. Ii-kings eza-appointwa zi-settlers, zi-Europeans, right? Xa zi-appointiwe iking ifumana inkomo, ifumana even izitipend, but of course I think in terms of imali andikho sure uba from ntoni, but kukho incentives, I think lelo gama ndilikhangelayo. Kukho incentives, so xa u-appointiwe uba uyinkosi bathi ziinduna xa sekubizwa, namhlanje kuthiwa ziinduna. So iba khona i-king, ne, and then kubekho iinkosana, yabo, iinduna ezirepota to the king. Ezaa nduna zininzi zazi-appointiwe zi-appointwa in the absence of uCetshwayo, and they conform, they willing to work with Europeans. Now when uCetshwayo comes back, uCetshwayo usazolwa yena, guess uba ngubani na abazombatheka kuqala. Uzawuathekwa ngobani kuqala? Akazuathekwa ngabelungu. Uzawuathekwa zezi zakhe because sekukwi-incentives kakade.
Uzaflambisa sesitya ngoku.
As a result, abantu bakaCetshwayo babelamba, some of them babehlala emiqolombeni, like literally emiqolombeni, yabo. So there was a huge difference between umuntu kaCetshwayo, i-loyalist kaCetshwayo ne-loyalist ye-Europeans. And I think loo nto ise-relevant nanamhlanje. There is a huge difference between umuntu loyal kwi-West, kwi-leaders, political leaders, nomuntu ongekho loyal kwi-West. There is a huge. So ezi nto zenzekayo ayizo nto into kudala zenzeka, qha it's just some models. Yabo,
it explains why as billionaires nazo.
There is now it's so unfortunate that sikhuthiwe kwi-history, and then I think ukhutshwa kwethu kwi-history yakuba singareasonishi ngendlela ekufanele uba sireasonisha ngayo, singabi critical, singabi, yabo, sithethe nje ilaa nto ezo. Now to cut the story short, ultimately they killed uCetshwayo, yabo, and then kwashiyeka ezilantuka ezibogus ntontoni. And then yanguDinizulu. Emveni kwaCetshwayo yanguDinizulu. uDinizulu fought a good war. uDinizulu was a king ngelaa xesha uBhambatha. uBhambatha wayeyinduna. uBhambatha was the only induna eyaresista That's why bam-isolate bambulala yena yedwa.
Oh.
He did laa nto yenziwa nguSankara because he didn't want to pay taxes.
Oh.
Iinduna zazibhatala itax. Yabo, wenza laa nto yenziwa nguSankara, but unfortunately wayenza yedwa.
Yeah, alone.
Yabo, but then ke ngoku they say kuDinizulu uba uBhambatha uripota kuwe. So laa nto kuBhambatha, then uDinizulu stood with uBhambatha. And that makes him revolutionary. Yabo. Now kuza ke ngoku abantu uza ngoku I think uBhambatha wazala, not uBhambatha, Dinizulu wazala Solomon, no Arthur, no. Yeah, ukwehla.
Only king aging art.
Yeah.
Why is king art?
Yayithiwe ngubani? Yayithiwe ngubani? If yayithiwe ngutatakhe, utatakhe wayebona inspiration from who? Waye-inspire ngubani? Yabo. So I think iqhubekeke ke izofika apha kule enkosi ngoku King Zwelithini yabo.
Uzayithini uhlabulani kuSolomon aze inyanga
yesizwe.
Supreme. Supreme ngibona?
Inyanga yesizwe. But zaziqala unikwa amagama eEnglish ke ngala xesha. Yaziqala unikwa amagama eSingesi ya.
No goodwill Zwelithini.
Goodwill na ligama leSingesi yabo. Yeah. Now ke ngoku yabona I think into ebangela ndithetha laa nto. There is an assumption, and then ingati the Zulu culture is the most progressive culture that maintains, the African. Culture is a way of life. The culture has nothing to do with liberation. Ungayibambi culture yakho, but
King Zwelithini lo don't just pass on me. Ngoku ngiqobana something ezindabeni namhlanje kuba umuntu ozoba interim leader Queen Amantombi Madlamini Zulu.
Ngo intombi kaZwelithini. I think there is also a question of
the interim leader until they
appoint. And I think ngoku I think bazoyenza because kuko there is a question of gender. Yabo, and then abezulu bayalungiswa ngoku as well, and they need to yabo. No, I mean yeah, I think for tribal as a result must
Queen Mantombi to be interim leader of the nation.
Unangaphi Mantombi? Unangaphi?
Ingabi inolawazi.
Umfazi kaZwelithini.
Nkosikazi wakhe.
Sister of King of Amaswana III, Queen Madlamini married King Zwelithini in 1973.
Nkosikazi yakhe. So umdala naye ngowani?
It doesn't say.
Really just be struggles.
Exactly, ndifuna yakuwe into yoappoint umuntu ongumama. Like why cares because umama okanye kufuna nje umitha laa nto ba.
No, that is fine. Why ngeke lo Lilian ngoyi wayengeyabikho.
Is she capable of leader?
No, senze mazobuza loo nto. Uzolithini wayephi? Kaloku I think it's a wife almost. Yeah, so I don't think that thing got to do with the revolution.
Oh, Monarch. Yeah, I keep forgetting. Monarch. Yeah, I keep forgetting. Yeah.
Sister Kamswati, the King.
By default.
If I may say.
Oh, credential.
Credential thing.
So nenyanga no intwana zakhe no reactionary zonke but then zizophatha.
But once ba introduce kina gender ezantwana inoba sezikhokhasa nazo ngoba hayi if usister yazi ngosister omdala zezemva wesister umuntu uzawuvela kodwa eza benefits sezibona mos kodwa like king ngona even the budget enkulu. Then I don't think that king was part of controlesa futhi.
Controlesa ngathi bengakathi ayikho controlesa ngathi ba independent, some sort of independent man. Ngathi I think eziku-controlesa kakhulu zezixhosa. Yeah.
Eziphuwa.
Zeziphuwa. So ngane yeah ngithi mathanye eziphuwa ne but sike sathi ngosithethayo sathi abantu abazi-conformist sibabona ngoba nee-incentives ezininzi. Uyabo? Just because aba baphuwa let us also not assume but
Yeah,
therefore
I think it goes back
bangxolelana kuthiwa uzwele thina ufumana into ezithile thina
Sisifumana,
sizifumana
yeah.
uyabo so
ayikho ngathi le nto.
no ayikho it is mad.
That's actually a good point. You make me laugh at it. The fact that we mention it throughout the history. Aba bantu ba aligned to abantu abamhlophe. I-situation yabo you can already see by injani.
Yeah.
And now we'll be talking, I mean, it's a coincidence now city is abaXhosa ziphuwa. That's necessarily in a traffic, but the fact that city is about it shows that there's a trend here. Once you align, once you interest levels they aligned, this is how it reach. Basically, because obviously, very rich, as so that could be a sign, but what's the word? Revolutionary
yabo ndifuna ulungisa loo ndawo no abukho zifolele zikhalaza no abukho no azilwela usondela azithi zifolele uma ingca emqolo ializi zikacetshwayo zathi unotshe asoze ziphathwe ngabelungu zazilamba eswini ngoba zazilamba eswini abantu besifa literally indlala abangabelungu babesithi we can never conform with abantu abasibula. I think babe introduce ne-Christianity ngela xesha yabo ngoku bayalantukayo and then xa babuya abantu bazi-Christian kuthiwa yho abantu bathi sizawuya ezulwini abe besibulala ngoku nibabona ngaba abantu yabo so bathi bona unotshe never yabo sixolele ulambo so ngabantu abaxolele ulambo they had an opportunity but they can sell out bawele baya kwelinye icala bafumane incentives. It's the matter of uba uyaconforma na.
So basically ezi zethu zilwela uconforma zifuna ukuba part of
they want to be integrated.
Yes.
Comrades, I mean this is simple. I mean thina ngoku I mean ngibanga inyanga March. I mean if I can join the DA ngoku I think it can take me 4 or 5 months read policies at DA and then I'll be sharp.
Get paid.
I will get paid. But the conscience does not allow us to do so. So ngaba kuleni singayenza lona. Singasebenza the same energy esiyisebenzayo for the organizations zethu. Siyisebenzise kwi-DA. Even if it's Freedom Front Plus, ndizomzekela. Yabo, upreach phaye Freedom Front Plus yeyomuntu wonke. AfriForum fight for umuntu wonke. Ube close nabo. It will take you 3, 4, 5 months. You'll get a job, you'll get a house, you'll be fine. Yabo endo zenzeka nangoku I think dala sizibona most of abantu besicima ngama-activist bathi bobona bale queue inde they cross the river Jordan and then babe right yabo it's as old as ixesha lolando so ezi kings zamaXhosa ayikuba zi-revolutionary nxa baziphuwa ithu zifuna indlela zifuna ungena uba makuvula igate nathi sizoba ngaphakathi so I think into i-brief yale history bendizama ukwenza ipoint yoba just because there is a Zulu nation enxiba amafele doesn't mean tradition doesn't mean liberation. Tradition alone doesn't mean liberation. You can ningayenza in fact ayiyo ne-threat into yoba ninxiba amafele okanye nombatha ingcawe zenu belungwini as long as nisenzela into bayifunayo xa
I think that ibona usiya kuyo bakwavela ntoba kukhona ndibona naku-Twitter then yoba the competition yabeZulu nabaXhosa in terms of who's maintaining the real tradition and ibivela kule yamabutho. But the fact that the king inegama enguGoodwill already you can see
that's deep singayithetha that's deep
because of ulwimi aluhambi lodwa. There's a culture behind ulwimi esilithethayo. Then even when which of you have a name that is outside of your culture, we must raise a question mark, especially from that influential position in defense of the culture of your people. No, it's a problem.
And uba ndiyayijonga le lineage iqala after uDinizulu lento.
Iqala after uDinizulu.
Then Solomon, bono Ada, bono Israel.
But I mean, I name I'll name my son Usankara because you know do you get my point?
Yeah,
inspired.
Yeah.
I mean how do I name my
And then
Oh,
naye mos
man.
umntana umpha is into to work on
Yes.
because the
Homework
moment
like
kuthiwa ungusankara
yeah.
nxa mdala uzazibuza why
Yeah.
then uyo research
Mm.
and check
Mm.
hey I have a role
Mm.
to play because of the name I carry is very heavy.
No, but I find this is very deep. It's very deep. That it starts to change after Udini's will. Then you see the influence.
Yeah, okay. Speaking of amagama, ne? Abelungu couldn't pronounce our names. Suka phaya into yotshintshwa kwamagama. You are taken to the farm. Xa ufika phaya uthi ndingumasande. Umlungu akanaxesha lomane libala igama lakho uzowuthi ngu-Arthur. The originality of amagama e-English abantwana beAfrika zange bazicelele. They were forced, yabo. They were given names. And we continued with that lineage. KwaNelson, yabo nami naxesha loba ndisithi ngurhole ihlahla mna. Yabona umlungu akanalo lo xesha xa sithetha nawe. Olukunika ilanto igama nguNelson. Ootata bethu babe ngoo-Goodwill, no-Sidwell kwii-mines, no-Eric kwii-mines, oJohn kwii-mines, yabo. Yeah. Umntana omdala wam ngoku sithiwa nguQondovu. So how do you pronounce umlungu? Umlungu akanalo igama le-English. Yabo. So such culture, you should reject such. We reject everything. And I think Glendo has a KZN, but KZN is the most cultural. KZN ngoku is portrayed as one of the most liberated. Esagcine izithethe namasiko nentontoni, yabo. Yeah, fine. Of course, amafela ayancedwa. I agree, yabo. Now let's talk the land issue as a KZN. Who has the land ngoku? Ngoku WhatsApp bantu yabonisa WhatsApp message yam comrades ase-KZN zikhala nge-racism from Kwamandini. Now if we have a leader ephakula ndawo for abantu bayo, you shouldn't have such. Bekufanele uba sithi xa sesiya KZN nathi as Africans feel uba kusekhaya apha. I feel liberated. Uyabo kusekhaya apha. Abantu emisebenzini abantu bakhala ngoba amandla asiphethe. Where do they get powers from? Yabo, I think uprofessor lazo kwenye ilanduka wayesenza brief history yase Haiti. Uthi Haiti yayisithi abantu babebaleka from kwindawo bezislaves kuzo baye Haiti. Xa bafika phaya then abazoslaves bazi-citizens. Now master xa bayokhangela izislaves zabo babona iboats kulwandle ba iboats zilapha show abantu bethu balapha bathi no silahlekelwe ngabantu izislaves zethu. Haiti, no, we don't have slaves here. We have by the virtue Haiti, by the virtue of you being black, we citizens as a Haiti. You don't need to apply for anything. That's what you call the liberated society.
And particular issue as Haiti, we need to have a processing about that. Because it's very interesting because of it happened after 2 years of a French revolution. But for our Myanmar, that was a genuine revolution. But it's not in the eyes because of you would find this Pan-Africanism was started in Haiti. And then Abando, they drafted the constitution outside of is God. But they were slaves and decide we'll do this and this. So your consciousness here to isuka very far without the influence of Monarchs.
I think we need to go deep into that. Now going back to Lenoya, now this history we break it down and some of the nuances or influences is in the current state of Israel. How do we then put ilaluka kazwelithini? What yintoni into eyenzileyo ezwelithini that we can actually celebrate?
None for me. Jonah, I think I mean look, classist, when we celebrate, I think what I've learned is that when black people celebrate, white people are angry. And when white people celebrate, bekufanele basi-angry, but ngenxa ye-confusion eyenzekayo, asiyiboni lo lanto. So what white people accept, yabo, iba kufanele base xa sebeyi-accepta bonke, fanele siyayi-question thini bani noba kutheni. Yabo, when they embrace it, when they advertise it, when they accept, yabo, so fanele sizibuze uba inoba kutheni, ikhona ingxaki, yabo. I mean, I think inkosi or be favorite media, yabo. And I think abantu I think uJulius uthe to be on the safer side, if awufuna iba uthi rather uthule, because in African culture we don't speak ill of dead. I mean, may his soul rest in peace. Kusoleke one of us.
One of us.
Yeah, but then we shouldn't lie. Sithi kukho legacy ngekho. Yabo. We can't be God forbid kuthiwa kusoleke umqwathi. There is nothing to celebrate in nokwenziwa ngokudemantage. There is absolutely nothing to celebrate for abantu bakhe. There is absolutely nothing to celebrate. What has Cyril Ramaphosa done for black people? God forbid basweleke. There is absolutely nothing to celebrate. Yabo. If I think laa nto isuka kulaa nto ezingcwabeni, yabo, nethi bendiphethuzela intwana apha, ithi mhla kuthiwa intwana bilungile. I think rather two. For me,
yeah, because the problem is the death is aligned with God and Christianity. So if there's this, it's sympathy. But is sugar even from evil people. So sympathize so as long as I think it's time is paid.
I mean in the revolution there are certain people that I wish this one can die. Like honestly, there are people who I wish them nothing but death. Did you want alone with his or her absence? We can have a better Lulu. Who's a stumbling block? I wish him nothing but death. So like it's. I think Uma was extreme. Abantu ababona kanje babulala ngokwakhe. Bona babambezela mali ngoba ndilinde nomntu agule. Asizohamba ngenxa yalo mntu babulala ngokwakhe, yabona, so that i-revolution ikhawuleze.
Yeah, but I think le nto ithetha is a very interesting, because uthi bantu bamnyama, in the sense that in some sense I feel it's holding us back, because what ends up happening, like khumbula ubeke ipost yakho ku-Facebook ucelebrate mbalo umthembu,
yeah,
useleka kamthembu. I know it's frowned upon kulaa nto ukuthi bantu bamnyama xa umntu eswelekile. But le nto ithethwa nguSim, xa abo bantu, like everyone, abantu bapha uyayazi abantu ngabantu basibamba and ba-out uhlobo bathi bamna akakho nto bayifihlayo, basibonise uba andizuyifumana le nto ndiyifunayo. Ngoku lo mntu xa esukile kube nangoku uphinde uzibambe your true vision.
I think Makhanyi, I think going back to God, I think it's Sunday now. I think it's not Deuteronomy. I think the story of Moses, it's a well-known story. You know, they wrote the Bible, ne? Old Testament, and they realized the Old Testament is dangerous. They introduced the New Testament. New Testament is so peaceful. Old Testament is ruthless. People get killed. Now, Moses is given a mandate by God. Magatata bandu from Kwafaro, abase
airport.
No, but Kanana, yeah, right. Moses endleleni yakhe uthi uThixo nayiphi na into odibana nayo ezakusokolisa ndizokunika amandla uyi-overcome. So kwijeni kaMoses, yabo, ndifuna uya kulela nto kwamakhaya le nto ye-sympathy nentontoni. God of the Old Testament was not sympathetic. He was wayesenza into yayisenziwa ngumawo. Yabo. So Moses endleleni yabo they meet bathi Amalekites, ne, a certain group of abantu. Uhamba nalo mhlambo bathetha kwaFaro yana beKanani. Aba bantu bayabadisturb, baqala iwona abo. yaqaphela sikho interested kwi-war sine-40 days ekufuneka siyihambile sofika eKhanani. Now xa si-engage nani ne-war yabo uyabasokolisa. What Moses does, he kills them. Asithethwa ke zonto ecaweni. He kills them. Yabo igather amadoda phaa Joshua and they kill them. Bacontinuisha. Now Moses usuka entabeni uyehla. Usuka entabeni usukothandaza and then xa ubuya abantu bakhe benqula izithixo yabo, and then the instruction ithi ninganquli izithixo yabo, ninqula uthixo kufanele nami understand. Now Moses abona uba hey ngabantu bakhe ke ngoku abantu abasuka bathatha eJiphuta, bantu bakhe so bantu suka eJiphuta abaselangeni. Abona uba uxoxa nam kwabantu izandisokolisa ndijeni yethu izobande. Agadarisha amajoni alanto kuleyo ayowabiza lanto ecaleni awanike izixhobo and they kill them. Aba bantu babo. Because asinibulali because sifuna unibulala. Sinibulala because sishortnisha indlela nizawukwenza indlela yethu ibende. Iba besinikwe i-time frame ye-10 days ngenxa yenu sawuphela sihamba i-40 days. We understand? So but of course ke ngoku ecaweni we're no longer talking about ezo zinto. We are taught peace. Yeah, it's peace, love, and then there's nothing wrong with peace and love. Yabo, but ngexesha lazo. Yabo, there's nothing wrong with them. So I think most yamabhulu they find inspiration okanye expression yabo from the Old Testament. Old Testament was conducting abantu bago kulaa ntontoni uya kulaa community uyokutyuphaya, kill abantu, babhukuqe and rule. You find ezo zinto Old Testament. Yabo, so I think I'm interested bana xa sebefundiswa. So ipoint ebenzabuyela ukungqinelana nento ithanda ngumakhanyi ba I think not to oppose about ukuthi also in the same breath we can also say ba uThixo, you know, and yabo wayevumelana nento ba into ibonayo ba iza kubambezela endleleni yakho.
Get rid of it.
Enkululeko. Get rid of it. Yabo.
I think that's the perfect spot for we end the segment. I think it was very interesting because she tells a lot about the history of Zulu and uyofika kuzwelithini without actually, like you said, rather ungathethi into bangaba yabo. So I don't think about, even though I can't see it bad, not really bad, but
we can know but call legacy beneficial to African people lines like
that's clear.
King Zolithin started to rule as early as 1971 if I'm not mistaken. And then we all know by ixesha le-apartheid ngelaa xesha. We all know abantu abeberebhela baphi na namhlanje. We all know but xa sewurebhela kokwenzeka ntoni yabo. So Biko said abantu abagcinayo i-apartheid ngabantu abebengeyo threat kuyo.
Sure.
I think I must just end there.
Now, when you can idea before it's a cut shape of when you are the 21st March.
Human Rights Day.
Yeah, Human Rights Day. Now, so you have to be trying to have any phone and when he serve, obviously, they're trying to find out about the history to Tinaban, but just people from South Africa. Do we actually know as events and what does it actually mean to us? And before say about only 20%, 18% of abantu that really know about Lenin, not just Lenin, but in 1976, but during the time of what is this thing? The Freedom Charter, but there's a lot of other critical events that you should find inspiration goes. But you find that only 20% of the people in South Africa actually know what the history is and can explain it. So I think the next segment is Sharpeville and Langa Massacre. I think it's from what led to Massacre and how should we remember it in its current laws, like in our current day-to-day life. Not just the Sharpeville Massacre, but ezinye massacre. And another one, obviously, she's a link to what happened also in Marikana, the most recent one. So I think the segment in like the Sharpeville Massacre started off just to educate about based on the same. So just have that in mind xa discuss le segment bangaba we trying to educate abantu bethu ba yintoni eyenzekayo because obviously based on the server akho mntu abantu baninzi abantu abangani 20% is a very low number for such important
I mean, TV veza inqindi likatata uMandela it's called Human Rights Day and that's what we know. So, hey.
Honestly speaking, asiyazi msithi thina lutsha like because asibone ngayo even like nako-Twitter, kwi-social media akho mntu like ayikho imedia ayenzi umsebenzi omkhulu omninzi uku-educate ulutsha about ezinto zonke. Even imarigana only watch it like ngo-90 kwakho like last year.
How to live.
Yes. Bafuna sibone like azikho izinto ezi-access like ii-documents ezi-accessible for thina abantu like efowunini ukugqinantsi okhe ufunda ngayo. So akho umsebenzi uninzi owenzayo like we need to like see.
Yeah.
I think before I think to a beautiful and really a beautiful history of Zulus. Abantu must go and find incwadi kamama uNomavenda Matthias. Nomavenda Matthias okanye Matthias MATH so Nomavenda Matthias so uGoogle uzokulungisa because now ngikwazi it the title of the book it Eyes in the Dark. It untold story of Zulu. It's beautiful history of the okay. Abantu they should find that book. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
No, I think the issue question for you pose and look under the comment yakhe. It was raised by the they say UCT. Because why after FFC won. So we say talking about the free education that we want, a free decolonized education. So he was asking them, okay, we say we want free education, fine, free decolonized education. The question is, who's gonna teach this this free this decolonized education? Because we are here at school, we want to go and work after degree. As soon as at universities and go on. We want to work. All of us here, we here to study and go to work. So we don't in another zethu as intellectual zethu as group then they can do our own syllabus sifunayo asizokwazi uba nayo. So abelungu are continuing giving us. So we think abelungu bazasinika le education sifunayo. The answer is no. It's the same as in media. The journalists that are there are the whites captured people.
Coley Van Vick.
Yeah, so
They're a journalist.
So
bias.
The history of Sifunayo, I think we need to work harder.
Yeah. That's why typically platform based also to have these clear discussions.
Yeah.
I think in the end the technology is that it allows us bangaba sikwazi influencer so to speak or put si document izinto apho besingakwazi udocumenta singakwazi udocumenta khona. So that's why it's balulekile i-conversation esifanele.
Yeah.
And the fact that sisithathe conversation ngolwimi bethu yenye into endifuna singayithatheli light. Izinto lesizenzile because zii-historical records ezo. Abantu especially abantu bayi-consumer different knowledge. The people are watching, they're being influenced by watching. So I think let's take this opportunity and educate. Be part of the change.
Yeah.
So again, when it comes to the Sharpeville massacre, let's be clear about what this is an opportunity to see from our side, but this is what happened, and this is why this day it should be a day that we partly mourning, partly celebrating some of the heroes. But
Yeah.
it shouldn't be whitewashed. But this is what is being done by using it as a human rights. Using this human rights day, it's being whitewashed. So kufuneka whilst lapha si-educate abantwana isuke lapha le kwafika kwenzeka le nto like le nto beyithetha ukanukisana wathi ukana Massacre, as much as they are aware, but she didn't really understand what actually happened there until abe educated ngayo. Then she was brought to tears. Then the emotional impact.
I mean, children don't know.
They don't know.
2012. Abantwana, they don't know. Honestly, you go to a school when ungaya kwincwadi atsoko umuntu usebhalile into ngento American. Ungaya kwincwadi zabantwana uyenza west uye kwi-history kwi-class ye-history esikolweni uthanda umntwana randomly uthi please tell me about Marikana. But they will write about it, but they will distort it
in their own comfortable
they will
way.
write about it. They wrote about Human Rights Day, the so-called Human Rights Day. It's a the fact that I think when Balek Sasa status, but black people never fought for human rights. Never. African people never fought for human rights. African people fought for a land restoration. Now, in those because the human rights automatically reduce it to the right. Human right, I have the right to go to education, I have the right to go to school, I have the right to eat, I have the right to I have the right to
This Rainbow Nation.
I mean, not only human rights, but human rights in the context of a Rainbow Nation. The first war was a racial war. It has always been a racial war. Yeah, but the questions of treat us better or it's a sign of but look, I'm defeated. I accept to be defeated, but it is
Can I go
to school? Can you stop? I accept to be defeated. But the passport in Monday, man. Can I go without it? Of course, there's a campaign that's bad like to build. Because we build we must test the masses as well.
Wow.
We strengthen the masses.
Are we ready? How far we ready?
Yeah.
Because of that game there were no such a thing good in our history. So we like to relate to this day as it was the day that it liberated black people from fear of police and gun. We don't talk about Human Rights Day to us. To us, that day liberated us from fear of gun and police. So we knew get 20 of March that get 21 March will be arrested, will be killed. But it's a start of our fight. Because of as this thing of Bala emails, in letters or on Queen, that was the ANC people. It's no longer work. Let's go on the street and confront the enemy with stones, with everything we have. So, go to the mini from that day when don't scared of anything. It's a march community. If we are free, we are available, we'll go there. We know there's consequences.
Yeah, I mean in March, I think in March as you can see a goose vote. Like I mean you ask yourself, but I mean you go to Brackenfell for instance. You go to Seneca. It's a no man's land, it's an Afrikaner land, in this context. It's like so abantu at least no fear yabona bayilanduka and then one of izinto ezasincedayo events asincedayo ilanduka eSharpeville. But I think the brief history also about Sharpeville, I mean now Human Rights Day, it's your Nelson Mandela Foundation thing. your Rainbow Nation thing. Rainbow Nation is for the ANC-led government thing. About reconciliation. We are all black, we are white, we are the same, we love one another, we are fine. Human rights, nonsense. Abantu abangayaziyo navuyo nge-Human Rights Day. What do you call Human Rights Day? Okanye mandithe Sharpeville Massacre. Sharpeville and Langa Massacre. ANC never participated. Prof Sobuko was a member of ANC, ANC Youth League, and they didn't agree, of course, after adoption of Freedom Charter, which says South Africa belongs to all who live in it. In the midst of abantu abamnyama bebulawa ngabelungu, we're saying that this country belongs to everyone, abahlala kubo, including our killers. So the controversy and the hypocrisy, now the separation, that's why I think if factions are genuine, if basically differences with political movements, ubona separation. The last separation yenzekayo uqhekeko ku-political parties, I think mnaluqhekola ngo-1959 because it was based on ideological orientation.
Yeah, there's a historical event.
There's ideological orientation. But look, we are Africans, first, and then everything follows. We don't see this thing of South Africa belongs to all who live in it. We are African, but we believe in African nationalism. So ideologies has clash kakulu. And the likes of Abotambo, they believed if we are integrated to Europe, we'll be fine. It's always, and then but we are capable of ukuzenzela ezethu izinto. And I think that abantu bayibamba out of context nalento kaSobuko uba there is no race but a human race. Abantu bayisebenzisa ingathi uthi you don't have to bujonga umlungu ngoba ngumlungu. We are all human. In a liberated Africa, we can all say after sifumene ubuntu bethu, we are rehumanized. Only then
we can say there's
we can say, but there is no race, but not in that way. I mean, as a result, it was one of Abandonati. We don't hate white people because they are white. We hate them because they oppress us. So he was clear about the call about that. Clash about the call. Now, Cleland Sharpeville. In 1959, baqhekeka from ANC, and then Sharpeville in 1960 kunyaka olandelayo. And kunyaka zoqala futhi 1960. And that's what make PAC unique. 1959 they break. Nyaka zoqala 1960 they start the revolution. Now we have our glorious movement, which was formulated as early as 1912, and nothing much has happened. And then kwaqala ngothethwa nge-African nationalism ngabo early 1930s ngexesha lika-Anton Lembede. Zangalast nexesha lingakanani bambulala. Now ngo-1960 when Prof Sobukwe, the PAC invited the ANC ukuba look ayonto ye-political movement yethu le, into yama-Africa because wonke umuntu uphatha ibhasi. Pledge solidarity with us, let's march to the police station. By 2 ANC, it's unplanned, it's immature decision. We can't participate in lento. And then we had to PAC, whether nikhona, whether anikho, forward we go. We don't need your approval. And baqhubekeka baya phambili. People were killed, of course. In the absence of PAC, ANC. ANC never participated. It was a PAC-led movement by Professor Robert Mangalusha Sobuku. Now go the line of opportunism. When abantu bebulawa, of course media will be here. Xa abantu bebulawa benza ntoni aboTambo? They go to the media. They ask media baba photo, bachisa mapasi, and of course newspapers they participated. But a letter was written to them. So it was never an ANC thing. Yeah, and I think problem okanye before ndilanduke ngafuna uadd, but I think into ye-opportunism kwi-the ANC indala kanje ibujonga nangoku le nto ibisenzeka ngoku this year yabo, without deviating kule nto ka-fees must fall wangoku. Uyaqaphela ngoku isevets ndibanjwe yi-SASCO, ilidwa yi-SASCO. Laa nto iqale i-UNIS ePretoria, iqala i-EFF Student Command way before ngoku, as early as January. Kudala yastruggle siqhubekeka abantu bangarejistarishi, abantu basebafunde e-UNIS abakarejistarishi nangoku. But when the media shows yonke laa nto izenge-SASCO guys. So I think it runs sometimes kwi-DE opportunism, kolaa nto kuthiwa umvundlu uzeka indlela imfuzo uthatha ugqitha. Yabo, you don't know how, but uve ubone ezaa chaps seziphambili and uyilida kwazo into and nawuphela zizanisa kwindawo ebendingayiwa kuyo. Yeah, yabo. They have that capability. I don't know how, yabo.
But also the media plays a huge part in London.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Attention layer EFF units. But kulena they jumped in.
Bona no ishmakashula for some reason.
Yazi ke kukho ilanduka I think kuba now I think after la Sharpeville massacre andikhumbuli nani babulawa, many were wounded and many 63 were killed, ne?
Yeah.
And then abanye were wounded. 517?
Yeah. I don't know, it's 109 or 63, but between those numbers.
Yeah, and there's 69 people were killed.
69.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kangoku and then zabhenishwa zonke political parties post la landuka.
Yeah.
Apartheid government was banished as only political parties. Now, I always use an example. I think let's go back to when I'm saying PAC was banned and all other political parties were affected.
Yeah.
I always go to the because it's Sunday, let's go back to church. You know the interesting story about uzalwa kaYesu, ne? Yeah, I think funibeka le nto icala ukuba sizamuthini xa sithi the PAC was banned and then others. Uzalwa kaYesu and then uHerode uyava ukuba kukho lonyana uzawuba powerful, right? Uzowuphatha and then uzawuba ngaphezu kwam ngamandla. So uHerode akamazi uba lonyana uphi ngubani, uparanoid, uyabo. uHerode gives instructions uba bonke abantwana abangamakhwenkwe uqala ku-2 ukwehla must be killed. And they were killed. So uHerode had no intentions of ubulala amakhwenkwe wonke. Amanye amakhwenkwe they were only affected ngenxa ye-presence kaYesu. Ayengeyo threat because ayesoloko ekhona. But kwathi uzalwa kwalona wabona uHerode izoba khona ingxaki. Now the PAC comes in power ngo-1959 and then few months down the line ibethe South Africa ku-stand still and then kwabona uba we can't afford to have this. I think umuntu angathi ndiyimember ye-PAC.
These are historical facts.
But we can't afford to ban a glorious movement inje. Yingozi le. Uyabo. Now let's ban political party. Let's ban yona, but masithi wonke abantu. So the purpose there yayikucima umlilo owuphendwa yi-PAC and bonke abanye abazonke enye political movements were just affected.
And also to that decision they give a deep analysis about that PAC thing. Because they saw these people have a year, have 3 months, 4 months. So akho power. The moment ubachitha. When they resume again, it will be difficult to run through. Yeah, because there were no layers of leadership. There's one layer. And then also they were in jail. Paid. Bashia the masses. Yeah, so babeyazi bangaba the day kusiwa kwingxoxo of being united as a country. Baya about le elixesha bebekho ngalo lincinci bazawuma regroup, and that's what happened.
Okay. So xa sesiyijonga le linye ngoku based on the information sinayo, what should be the significance of le mini yanamhlanje really? If bisithi aba-control narrative, bese sithi sithi media, sisithi aba-influencer, whatever, like program abantu, because basically abantu are being programmed by
sure, totally.
Yeah, so if bisithi abazama uprograma our people, bemema sibaprograma, so to speak, or sithini ukubonga le mini sithi, what should be the stance? Whether should we just forget this? Should this be an isolated incident? Okay, okay, fine. Now let's just continue our life. Or should we find inspiration? And how do we use that inspiration to get out of the situations that we're in? Like how do we program abantu?
I think power history, ne? Power history is that uthatha ukule ndawo mos, ne, and then you will go back, right? Also, history enables you to come up with what you call in modern English a root cause analysis. Right? And then from there you are able to find solutions. I think we are struggling to find solutions because we have not entertained our true history. We have not dealt with the root cause analysis. So part of exposure yabantu to such conversations eSharpeville bayenze kanjani kwakutheni na, you wouldn't have to persuade abantu ukuba they must revolt. It will I mean into basizohlala lapha ngoku, we have an opportunity uba besohlala eparking, but it's what we know. I-information encinci bangala sibe lapha sincame zonke izinto. So knowledge alone, a program, it's not an effort uba sithi xa sekusithiwa kuyiwa eSenegal usixelele ngebudget uzawuncama neyogqibela imali because of the knowledge that you have. Yabo? Whites, they understand. The whites, they maintain what they maintain because they understand very well their history. They've been taught their history. They understand their whiteness. That's why it's effortless for them to kwenza nantona abafuna uyenza. They don't even have to call meetings. Do you know what I mean? Too much we are Brackenfeld and nobody will busy meetings as well.
We must go and recruit and convince each other.
Hey, pass leaves.
And then even our prof was like, I argue, but they didn't do too much work because of, you can see the response of abantu babe ready and then babe digiyo. Because of, I remember they were saying they were three of abantu bangena in research just to save La Paz. Yeah, so that's how important it was. Yeah, in Riyadh, we want to save only La Paz because of mom, so we must go to work. Awuna pass lo reporter bangumlungu and na pass. I was wanna pass lo kuya. So you must go and save La Paz for ba uye msebenzi ni report ba into zamuthi the ukuthakwa La Paz ubomi babo out because you can't move from point A to point B.
And also the Sharpeville prof, the other thing that was demonstrated there, I think by the Kusasa, was the power that we have, as black people. I think in the context of umsebenzi nowadays, kuthiwa resources, the financial resource, technological resource, and human resource. Now human resource, because we are regarded as resources in by the way.
Yeah, we are
resources. I I asked this question that was the presentation. Yeah, I don't know. You are resources. So we fall under the category of human resource, right? So what Prof wanted to demonstrate power kuba elizulu nizicreatele lona apha emhlabeni without our help andinokwazi ulenza. So ngalamini he pulled all human resource from emisebenzini. emveni kwala mina abantu they refuse to go back to work up to a point oba amabhulu athumela amapolisa abantu bazogqogqwa ezindlini baba baye emisebenzini because the production ayenzeki emisebenzini. And that's powerful and it's still relevant till today.
And then that was the intention also of that march. Bangab, okay, we'll go there and they'll get us into jail, arrested as Amadon. Then if production as well,
Yes.
yeah, but then well for some bus release, and then from there as it passed, I was starting to move around. That was their strategy.
Now, now, sorry, a black person is killed. Kanye black person ufaka ku coffin ngamabhulu ephila. Black person ushadula farm. Yabona kuthiwa no, bengicinga imfene. You know, zonke izinto ezenzekayo ebantwini abamnyama. And then we just see them. You know, we don't do anything about it. We don't have a sense of one of my own is being. You understand? Now, just imagine if masenze umzekelo ngale nto yabantu abayiteksi abeziphawundiwe. Typical example. I mean, some of us benefit from a taxi, such as taxi esikolweni. So it matters not by taxi yakulobani uthathweyo, it affects me. Now, try city. When the municipality, city of Cape Town, sends into ethile and then it affects abantu abamnyama, all of us, Galamini, we don't go to work. All of us, we don't go to work. Imagine, we would get a response before the end of the day. And these are the terms and conditions that you need to in order for us to go back to work, whether the sevens are P, if kwenzeke into and then the black person was affected, and then we as a black nation feel like all of us mustn't go to it. Because the reality of the matter is we have created an impression. Okay, an impression was created, we depend on it's not an interrelationship, it's a one CT. As a result of the issue, was not something in of your souls. Could have needs our for labor, now conva. But the reality of I think that's why Minister Farrakhan is always preaching of his separation. Would you rather separate, build your own schools, build your own media, create your own wealth, and I think the buying power abantu abamnyama they already have. I mean, if usingajonga millions of rands that we squander, it's unimaginable. But there's millions of rands without consciousness, they're meaningless. So part of consciousness, it plays a very, very huge role. I think it changes your mind. I can say it is a long ngokutsha, you know. Ndizelwe ngokude ngiNikodimo uzalwa ngokutsha, it does something to you. I think mangayityhu mangasenza umsebenzi.
Yeah, and also I think le nto ye-human rights day, right? Silulutsha eSouth Africa, like singabona abantu bane-voice esingatshintsha ngayo izinto. So if singathatha ezinto ezenzeka kudala, like senze into for thina abantu for ulutsha lwangoku leminyaka siphila kuyo ngoku. Singathi into kayenzeke kumakhanye kenzeke emakhanye affecting mna bendibayenzeke kum ize ndiphakame ndilwe. Like into ye-racism, into yongaphakama emsebenzini, like izinto ezenzekayo ezo imihla nemihla. Kumele kenzeke kum, like ayikenzeki kum sandiyihoyanga. Sikathi if umuntu uthi ukhinde nje asiphakameni sonke siyazi uba i-affecta wonke umuntu omnyama, ingabi into kabani nokabani. Thina singakwazi uba silwe into ezininzi ngaloo nto. Umzekelo into yeemoto eziphawulwayo. Omnye umphandi ndicela uba ndisewuthafransi nge-Friday bayi-7. Uthi akazukwazi because iinto zabo ziyaphawunda if like bakhulisa abantu. Akazukwazi ukufumana imali yobandisa because ndika uba xa ihambayo siya phaa uzobanjwa ngetrafiki ikhwendleleni. Like zizinto ezifanele zenzeki ezo kumhlaba wethu siphila kuwo abantu abamnyama. Ifane abantu edala bazalwelwa zasombululeka. Ifane bazikhulekile, but we are not.
Yes, I think what Prof Sesante wathi asilwi notshabo lungalwiyo.